became every day more tumultuous. Tumultuous. Increase of knowledge only discovered to me more clearly what a wretched outcast I was. I cherished hope, it is true, but it is true. Hope, it is true, but it vanished when... Oh. But hope, it is true, but it vanished when I beheld my person reflected in water, or my shadow in the moonshine, even as that in the moonshine, even as that frail image and that inconstant shade. Can't handle it. I'm not even doing anything. Even fucking do it. God fucking. Quite the fuck. They did not appear rich, but they were contented. They did not appear rich, but they were contented and happy. They did not appear They did. Felix and Agatha spent more time in amusement and conversation, and were assisted in their labours by servants. There. Servants. They did not appear rich, but they did not appear rich, but they were contented and happy. Their feelings were not appear rich, but they were contented and happy. Their feelings were serene, and happy. Their feelings were serene and peaceful, while mine became every peaceful, while mine became every day more tumultuous. Tumultuous. Increase of knowledge only described to me more clearly what a wretched outcast I was. I cherished hope. I was. I cherished hope. It is true. I cherished hope, it is true, but it vanished when I beheld my person reflected in water, or my shadow in the moonshine, even as that frail image. A shadow in the moonshine, even as that moonshine. Shadow in the moonshine, even as that frail image and that inconstant shade. I endeavoured shade. And that inconstant shade. I endeavoured to crush these fears, and to fortify myself for the trial which, and to fortify, and to crush these fears, and to fortify myself for the trial which in a few months I resolved to undergo. And sometimes I allow undergo. And sometimes I allowed my thoughts, unchecked by reason, to ramble. Thoughts unchecked by reason, to checked by reason, to by reason, to ramble in the fields of paradise, and dared to fields of paradise, and dared to fields of paradise, and dared to fancy amiable and lovely creatures sympathizing with my and lovely creatures sympathizing lovely creatures sympathizing with my feelings and cheering my gloom, with my feelings and cheering my with my feelings and my feelings and cheering my gloom. My gloom. Their angelic countenances breathed smiles of consolation, but it was all consolation. Of consolation, but it was all a dream. All a dream. No, all a dream. No Eve soothed my sorrows, nor shared soothed my sorrows, nor shared soothed my sorrows, nor shared my thoughts. I was alone. Alone. Was alone. I remembered Adam was alone. I remembered Adam's supplication to his Creator, but where was mine? He had abandoned me. But where was mine? He had abandoned me. And in the bitterness of but where was mine? He had abandoned me. And in but where was mine? He had abandoned me. And in the bitterness of my heart had abandoned me, and in the bitterness of my heart I cursed him. I cursed him. Autumn passed thus. I saw with a thus. I saw thus. I saw with a I saw thus. I saw with surprise and grief the leaves decay and fall, and nature again assume the barren and bleak appearance it had worn when I first beheld the woods and the lovely moon. Yet I did not heed the bleakness of the and the lovely moon. Yet I did not heed the bleakness of the weather. I was better fitted I was better fitted by my conformation for the endurance of cold than heat. But my chief delights were the sight of the cold than heat. But my chief delights were the sight of the flowers, the birds, and all the gay apparel of summer, when those deserted me. When those deserted me. When those deserted me, I turned with more attention towards the cottages. Towards the cottages. Their happiness was not decreased by the absence of summer. They loved the absence of summer. They loved and sympathized with one another, and their joys depending with one another, and their joys with one another, and their joys depending on each other were not interrupted by the casualties that took place around them. And their joys, depending on each other, were not interrupted by the casualties that took place around them. And their joys, depending on each other, were not interrupted. And their joys with one another. And their joys, depending on each other, were not interrupted by the casualties that took place around them. The more I saw of them, the greater became my desire to claim their protection and kindness. My heart yearned and kindness. My heart yearned to be known and loved by these amiable creatures, to see their to see their sweet looks directed towards me with affection was the utmost affection was the Perfection was the perfection was the utmost limit of my ambition. Of my ambition. I dared not think that they would turn. I dared not think that they would turn them from me with disdain and horror. And horror. Hey. Wake up, no snores. The poor that and horror. The poor that stopped at their door were never driven away. I asked away. Were never driven away. I asked, it is true, for greater treasures than a little food or rest. I required kindness or rest. Food or rest. I required kindness and sympathy, but I did not believe myself utterly unworthy of sympathy, but I had kindness and sympathy, but I did not believe myself utterly unworthy of it. The winter advanced. Unworthy of it. Unworthy of it. The winter advanced, and an entire revolution of the seasons had taken place since I awoke into life. My attention I awoke into life. Since I awoke into life. My attention at this time was solely directed towards my plan of introducing myself into the cottage of my protectors. I revolved many of my protectors. I revolved into the cottage of my protectors. I revolved into the cottage of my protectors. I revolved many projects, but that on which I finally revolved many projects, but that on which I finally fixed was to enter the dwelling when the blind old man should be alone. I had said should be alone. Old man should be alone. I had sagacity enough to discover that the unnatural hideousness of my person was the chief. Hideousness of my person was the chief. My person was the chief object of horror. With unnatural hideousness of my person was the chief object of horror with those who had formerly beheld me. My voice beheld me. Had formerly beheld me. My voice, although harsh, had nothing terrible in it. I thought, therefore, in it. Terrible in it. I thought, therefore, terrible in it. I thought, therefore, that if in the absence of his children I could gain the goodwill and mediation of the old De Lacy, I might by his means be tolerated by my younger protectors. Means be tolerated by my younger protectors. One day, when the sun shone on the red leaves that strewed the ground and diffused cheerfulness, although it denied warmth, Safie Agatha denied warmth, although it denied warmth. Safie, Agatha, and Felix departed on a long country walk, and the old man walk, country walk, and the old country walk, and the old man, at his own desire, was left alone in the cottage. When his children alone in the cottage. When his children had departed, he took up his guitar and played several mournful but sweet airs, more sweet and more airs, sweet airs, more sweet and mournful than I had ever heard him play before. At first his countenance before had ever heard him play before. At first his countenance was illuminated with pleasure, but as he continued, thoughtfulness and thoughtfulness and thoughtfulness and sadness succeeded. At length, laying aside succeeded. At length, laying aside the instrument, he sat absorbed. Beside the instrument, he sat absorbed in reflection. 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 My heart beat quick. This was the hour. Quick. This was the hour and moment of trial which would decide my hopes or realize my fears. My hopes, or my hopes, my hopes, my hopes, or realize my fears. The servants, my fears, realize my fears, would decide my hopes, or realize my fears. The servants were gone to a neighbouring fair. All was silent in and around the cottage. It was and around the cottage. It was an excellent opportunity. Yet, when I proceeded to execute opportunity, yet excellent opportunity, yet when I proceed excellent opportunity, yet when I proceeded to execute my plan, my limbs execute my plan, my limbs my plan, My limbs failed me, and I sank to the ground. To the ground. To the ground. Sank to the ground. Again I rose, and exerting all the firmness of which I was master, removed the planks which I had placed before my hovel to conceal my retreat. The fresh air to conceal my retreat. The fresh air revived me, and with renewed determination I approached the door of their cottage. I knocked. I knocked. I knocked. Who is there? I knocked. Who? I knocked. Who is there? Said the old man. There. Who is there? Said the old man. Who is there? Said the old man. Who is there? Said the old man. Come in. Old man. The old man. Come in. I entered. Come in. I entered. Pardon. I entered. Pardon this intrusion, said I. Pardon this intrusion, said I. Intrusion, said I. I am a Intrusion, said I. I am a traveller in want of a little rest. You would greatly oblige. Rest. Of a little rest. You would greatly oblige me if you would allow me to remain a few minutes before the fire. Enter. The fire. Enter. A few minutes before the fire. Enter, said DeLacy. Enter, said. Enter, said DeLacy. And I will try and see. Said DeLacy. And I will try and said DeLacy. And I said DeLacy. And I will try in what manner I can to relieve your wants. But unfortunately but unfortunately my children are from home, and as I am blind, I am afraid I shall find it difficult to procure food for you.